Hello everyone. In today's video I'm doing I want to call it a video response, although it's not like a tag that was started, but it's a video response to two videos that I watched recently here in the community. One of them was by Sylvains Deadly Sins, 11 Reasons Not to Buy a Deck, and then TIERRA Princess of Wands also did a video. My video is going to be a little different. They showed 11 decks that Sylvain was getting rid of them, and then TIERRA showed decks that she loved, and there were reasons to not buy more decks. So I'm doing this video because, one, it's always good to really think about whether you want to buy a deck or not. Also, in the last few months, I have been buying way more decks than I probably need. So I'm using this as a reflective exercise, and also as a way to dissuade myself from getting more decks right now. I have a very long list of decks I would like to have. Some of them I talk myself out of them, so I'll make a list, and then adding them to my list helps me not feel like I have to buy them right away. So then I just kind of sit with the wish list, and if I see the deck on sale or somebody is selling it as a used deck, I'll get it. Or if I have already like thought about it and decided that I do want it, I'll get it. So this here is my Hobonichi Weeks planner, and in the back part of it there's some space for notes. So I moved my deck wish list to this page from my previous place where I had it. So I used to have a deck wish list for 2021. Some of those I got, and some of them have fallen off the wish list. So this is like the current wish list that I would like to have. And as you can see, I have crossed out some of the ones that I have gotten. So am I saying that in this video I don't want to be saying or mean to be saying that I will never buy another deck? But I came up with 11 reasons why I shouldn't buy a deck, and that's what I was showing you here. I just have some notes, and I will be showing you some decks that go with my reasons. And then I was reflecting on the like the contradiction in that, where maybe this video can be like inspiration for you to not buy a deck, but at the same time I'm showing you decks that might make you want to buy these decks. So just wanted to share that that was a contradiction I was noticing. So I'm going to go in order of how I came up with my reasons, and as I mentioned, there won't always be a deck to show, so I might just leave a couple of the decks here on the frame for you to have something to look at. So reason number one for me to not buy another deck is that I already have the three main systems of tarot. So I have a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I have a Thoth deck, and I have two Marseille decks actually. I have more than one Rider-Waite-Smith, but these are the ones I'm showing you. So this was actually the reason why I collected. I wanted to have one of each system. So I learned tarot with the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is not my very first deck, but this is one that I really enjoy using because it's so small and I really like the coloring. Lately I've also been interested in Rider-Waite-Smith decks that have different coloring, or like a limited color palette. I am really interested in the Mahogany Tarot, which is Rider-Waite-Smith deck with people of color. So that might be a deck I purchase. Oh no, I'm already failing at this prompt. Anyway, so This is my Rider Waite Smith. This is the deck that I am most familiar with and that I gravitate towards the most. I wanted to have a Thoth deck, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I have not worked with the Thoth much. I follow a few YouTubers who really did like a deep dive into this deck. I hope to do that someday. I'm really interested in the 36 Decans book by Susan T. Chang, and I see a lot of people like starting that journey. It's a year-long journey. I'm not at a place where I can do that right now, but it's definitely on my list of things to do. And maybe once I start working with a Thoth tarot, I will fall in love with it so much that I feel like I don't need any other deck. I know that's how some people feel. At least Sylvain is one of the things that he mentioned, that studying or working with another deck would take time away from him getting to know and building a relationship with the Thoth tarot. And that was one of the things that kept him from purchasing more decks. So then for a time after I got into tarot, I found Cassia from Tarot Map on YouTube, and she was doing a series on the Marseille Tarot. So I loved her series, and I learned so much from watching her and her explanations. So for a time I was obsessed with the Marseille Tarot, and you would think that there's no variety in Marseille, but I think Cassia has some videos where she shows different decks, and there is variety. So there are reasons to buy more than one deck, but I think you only need one Marseille deck. And once you find one that you love, this is not my favorite actually. I don't really like the blonde hair on all the people cards, but this is the one that was easier to get to. I have a different one that I love by Luisa Benny, so maybe I should have grabbed that one, because that one keeps me from buying any more Marseille decks. And I tried to sell this one and failed, and I failed because I didn't want to sell it at the end. So it's staying in my collection, and for now, although I'm looking at it again and I'm like, why am I keeping you around if I already have one? So risking doing this whole video response super wrong. That was reason number one. Reason number two is that instead of buying a new deck, I could spend time getting to know the decks that I currently have. So when I started collecting and working with the tarot, first I started working with the tarot, then I started collecting, and I would do a lot of trading. So I would get a deck, and if I didn't resonate with it, I would trade it. Then I found myself trying to get those decks back, and that made me pause my trading and my selling. So I have been keeping the decks because I have found that maybe I don't feel drawn to it right now, but I can work with it later. That might just be me making excuses to hoard decks. But the reason why I picked the Osho Sen Tarot for this prompt, which is to get to know the decks better and develop a relationship with them, is because I really love this deck. It should have been included in my classics because it's actually one that I gravitate to and come back to really often, especially when I'm feeling like a lot of mental overwhelm. I find that this one is really good for that, for quieting down the mind and getting really clear about some of the things that are bothering you. So by not purchasing another deck, I can deepen my relationship with the Osho Sen Tarot, which is I really like the guidebook for it. I like the messages and the way that the deck speaks to me. It's a lot about the mind and emptying your mind, and yeah, so if I devote more time to really getting to know this deck, I will, even with the few months, I've had it for years, but the few times that I have used it, it has been really great and has given me great insight into the things that are bothering me. I can only imagine what more I could get out of it if I really devoted like a whole year to it. So yeah, this is the deck that I was thinking about. One of the decks. I actually have quite a few that I would want to get to know better, and but this is one that I decided to show. Reason number 3 to not buy another deck is, for me personally, I'm running out of space and I need to make room for baby things now that I'm gonna be having a baby in July. So that's a very real problem that I'm gonna have to deal with soon. Just moving some things around, maybe putting some things into storage because there's not a lot of room to go around with the addition of baby things. So then reason number 4 is to really think about why you're getting a deck. Is it just that you want the thrill of acquiring a deck, or are you trying to fill a void? Are you looking for something outside of yourself that can only be found inside? So I have those days when I'm browsing Mercari or Etsy or YouTube because I'm looking for some, like, a pick-me-up. Sometimes I browse Amazon as well to see if any of the decks are on sale. So I do that, and I have noticed that when I do that, it's because there's something that I'm trying to distract myself from. So there's like the satisfaction of buying something, and it doesn't have to be a deck. It could be a crystal, it could be even a notebook for me. So there's that satisfaction and that instant gratification that comes with getting a deck. But so what I was saying is that if I am a little bit like obsessive about doing it, and I just have to notice myself like scrolling through Amazon looking at the tarot decks when I know I don't need or want one, but I just have this feeling of wanting to spend money or have like the satisfaction of getting something that so noticing the behavior and just questioning and being curious about why I might be doing that if I know I don't need one more deck, and trying to maybe do some journaling to get to the bottom of that feeling would be one thing that I could do. And since I do journal a lot, I will go to my journal and be like, I have been browsing the digital shelves of Amazon looking for a deck. I do not need any decks, and maybe I don't even have the funds to be buying a deck, but I have this like obsessive behavior, or there's this like gratification that I get even from looking at decks, adding them to the wish list, and just really investigating that that feeling and that behavior. So why did I pick this deck to show you? This is the tarot. I don't remember the author's name. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the description box. But I bought it for $5. It was a kit that I found at this secondhand bookstore, and it's by the author of the Moon Oracle. So this deck was not in my wish list. It was not even, I didn't even know about the deck. I just literally bought it because it was $5, and it was a few years ago before tarot was really mainstream and you could find it at Barnes & Noble and all these other bookstores. So it was rare to see tarot decks out in the wild. So I saw it and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it. So I got it. And while I do like the artwork, it's a pip deck, I don't think I have used it. So it was just that instant gratification and the acquiring of the deck that was the main purpose, not to use it. Well, I'm sure when I bought it, I wanted to use it, but I haven't really worked with it very well. It has really beautiful major arcana, but like I said, the minor arcana are just pips. So I think there's another deck that I had that I got in a similar way. It was like on sale at one of those little shops before tarot was everywhere, and I felt like I couldn't pass up on such a great deal. I didn't bring that one out, but I still buy things to fill a void. But at least I feel like sometimes I can catch myself and be aware that I'm trying to fill something or address something with acquiring something, and that in the end I might get the deck and it will go in a bag, sit on a shelf, and I will still have the problem that I'm trying to avoid. So it's best to just go to the problem that you're trying to avoid directly instead of going around spending your money acquiring things. This next point for myself, overconsumption of something, I think it's related to the previous point about acquiring things because you want to fill a void. And I do not have a different deck to show you for this reason, but Sylvain talked about the fear of missing out, and I definitely experienced that with a lot of things. Like even some of my favorite sellers on Instagram who will use not just Instagram, like everywhere, they'll say like, oh, this is a limited edition, and once they're gone, so you better get it now. So they create this sense of urgency and limited scarcity mentality, and I fall for those all the time. I think Kickstarters also have that same, they give me the same feeling. Oh, how long is this video? So if you don't get the deck while the Kickstarter is happening, sometimes you might never be able to get the deck unless you buy it off of someone. Thankfully, the creators have been selling their decks after the Kickstarters, so that has helped me say no to a few Kickstarters. Or the out-of-print decks, when the creator will say that they're only doing one final run and this deck is going to be gone forever. All of creating that sense of urgency really works for selling stuff, and it has worked on me more than I would like to admit. Reason number 6, I feel like all of these are related: acquisition versus real use. So like I mentioned, this deck is a great example of me acquiring the deck because it was on sale, and it was cool to see a tarot deck in a shop where you might not see it, but then I didn't really use it. So something to consider before buying a deck is, will you actually use the deck, and do you have time to use it, or do you have like an overwhelming collection of decks that it might be like months before you get to actually use it. That has happened to me with a few decks. So as I said, the last few months I have bought a lot of used decks and I haven't worked with some of them yet. I know I will work with them eventually, but it will be like months before I actually work with them. So did I need to get them when I did? Probably not. And then reason number 7, some people might not agree. I don't know if I agree with this reason either. One deck is all you need. So, if we lived in a time when you couldn't have hundreds of tarot decks and they weren't easily accessible, or maybe we just couldn't afford more than one deck, I think that having just one that you really connect with, whether it's the Rider-Waite or the Thoth or the Marseille, that's all you really do need. But I'm gonna contradict my own point. I know one of the reasons why I collect different decks is because there's differences in the way that the artists understand the tarot. So there's like communication and like a building of meaning in different decks. And this reminds me of a video that I saw by That's Reflections, I think. She was doing a VR to someone about the Rider-Waite Smith, and I commented in her video about how tarot to me feels like collective exercise in meaning making, and through different artwork, different interpretations, we are all adding our own voice to the tarot. And the tarot is not just this deck or this deck or the Thoth deck. For me, the tarot is like the collection of symbols and experiences that people are having while reading and relating to the cards. So yeah, so if I was in a situation where I was very limited with funds and space and accessibility, I really do believe that one deck is all you need in order to do the work of exploration, self-exploration, and self-study. Reason number 8. One of my reasons was that I already have one of each category that I would want to have. So I have an animal deck. At least I think I have an animal deck. I couldn't find it. I think I have the Animal Totem Tarot. I have a plant deck, which is the Herbal Tarot. I have a crystal deck, an angel deck, a goddess, fairy, ancestor, shadow work, inner child, creativity, any category you can think of. I feel like I have one that I could use for that. So that's actually the rest of the card decks that I pulled to show you. So this is the plant deck that I had been flipping through. This is the Joy de Vive Tarot, which I love, and this one would be good for inner child work because it's so whimsical. And I really like this deck because I feel like I can hear it in a way that I can't hear other decks, which is really when you find the deck that you can hear, that's a really good feeling. So I wanted to show you this goddess deck. This goddess deck has kept me from buying other goddess decks like the Colette Baron Reeds and the Dark Goddess Tarot, still on my list, but I haven't gotten it. So every time I'm looking at a goddess deck and I'm like, oh, I want to get that one, I remind myself that I already have a goddess deck, and unless it has significantly different or like adds to these different goddesses, I probably shouldn't get it. So this beautiful deck has kept me from buying others, and the artwork is really beautiful. A deck for shadow work to keep me from buying other decks for shadow work, and I have a few shadow work decks on my list. It's the Reclaim Oracle. And I feel like I bought this one. It was one of the damaged ones, I think. This deck is pretty massive. So I don't need to buy another shadow deck because I have this deck. And technically you could do shadow work and shadow readings about your shadow using the Rider-Waite as well. So let me see, I think I was on reason 8. Reason number 9 for me is that well, I'm going to combine 9 and 10 because my video is getting long. You do not need a deck for divination. You don't need a deck for spiritual work or for spirit communication. And I say that because you can do divination with anything. You could do divination with the clouds. You could do divination with the weather, with the animals that you encounter, with bones and seeds and charms. So do you need a tarot deck to do divination? No, I don't think you do. And do you need a tarot deck to have a spiritual path? I also don't think that you need that. Obviously, sometimes the decks are really wonderful tools that can show you different parts of yourself, help you understand different parts of your spiritual path. But I don't think they are required for a spiritual journey. They're just like nice to have, but not essential. And let's see. Reason number 11 is more of a question for me. I wrote curiosity about why you feel you need all the decks. And then also so my video got cut down because my camera died, and I was wrapping up the last thought, which was reason number 11, to be curious about why you feel like you want to have all the decks. And also I had a question here about what will happen to your decks when you die. So for me, I hope to pass my decks along to my daughters. They have their own cards. They're little, so they're not super into the tarot yet, but I hope that they will be interested, and if they want to keep the decks, that they can have them. Also, I wanted to do a bonus reason that I often use to keep me from buying decks. So sometimes creators will have like a series of decks, right? And I, for the most part, want to have like the complete collection. But one thing that has helped me not like run after a new edition of a deck, or like the next deck that the creator makes, is stopping to think about whether I really got to know the previous deck, whether I enjoyed it before rushing to buy another one, and then giving myself time to really connect with the previous deck. So I'm using the Starseed Oracle as an example. This is the only Oracle deck by Rebecca Campbell that I have. She has the Work Your Light Oracle out, and then a more recent one, the Roses Oracle, I think it's called. And I have wanted both of them for a long time, but I stopped myself from buying them because I have used this deck, the Starseed Oracle, but I haven't used it long enough to have like a very close relationship with it. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't bought the other two decks, because I have this one that I can get to know better, to really figure out if I will like the other two. I know I like this type of artwork, but they also feel very similar too. So sometimes I talk myself out of buying the new one and the old one because I have this one. And I do that with a few other decks that are on my wish list, like the one that comes to mind is the Black Madonna Tarot, which I really hope I am able to purchase one day. But for now, I have the Mysteries of Mary Tarot by the same creator. And I know they're not the same, but if I can't purchase the Black Madonna Tarot because it's really expensive, at least I have the Mysteries of Mary Tarot to work with and still get some of that creator's energy in my work. So yeah, that's another reason that I have used in the past and will probably continue to use moving forward, to pause before jumping in to buy a deck, especially the decks that are really expensive. Another deck that comes to mind that I want is the second and third edition of the Story Medicine Tarot, which are different decks than the first edition. But I want to work with the first edition, which I have, before investing in the second or third edition. So I hope that this video was interesting to you, and that maybe there are some reasons that I used to stop myself from buying decks that can help you when you feel like you need to just kind of slow down the purchasing and really connect with your decks that you currently have. And I will link Sylvain's video as well as the Princess of Wands video, so you can see those. And let me know what do you think of reasons to not buy a deck. I'm sure I could come up with 11 reasons to buy a deck, but this tag was about not buying a deck. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you on the next video.